Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. All right. We are doing the December wrap-up. So this is the final wrap-up of 2023 for a monthly one anyway. I thought about combining the yearly wrap-up, but I'm going to put all those stats in my favorites of the year. That just makes the most sense to me. So I'll get all of that combined and we'll have all the big numbers to share then. So I will just share the December numbers and favorites for you. This was a really fun month. I can't believe all the different things that I tried with this. So December was such a journey. We just were all over the place. It was great. It was absolutely what a ride. So without further ado, we'll get into this. Just a reminder though, for my monthly wrap-ups, I don't go over every single book that I've read. I do that in my weekly wrap-ups, which you can find in the playlist right here, which at this point will have every book that I've read in 2023. So if you feel like going on a Book Refuge binge fest, it'll probably take you a couple solid days to get through because there's about 48 hours of content with that. So enjoy. This will just be my stats because I'm a nerd and you guys have told me you like knowing them as well. And then I will talk about my top 5 books that I read this month that I want to gush about. I'll have links to all these books down below. If you want to read some of my favorites, check it out. All right. Okay. So the month of December, I read 48 books and that was 17,507 pages. Which is insane. That's just crazy. I feel like that can't even be all of it because of one of the books that I read was so large. But I did read a couple of small ones, so there's that, I guess. But anyway, one of the books that I read was 2,200 just by itself. So the formats of these were I read 28 ebooks, 13 audiobooks, 12 physical books, and 7 ARCs, advanced reader copies, just in case you didn't know. The ratings of these books was 9 of them were 6 stars, which of course that was because of the rereads that I did. Only one of those was a new 6 star, so we'll say that. One of them was a new 6 star, and all the rest were rereads. 10 5-star books, 5 4.5, 18 4 stars, 3 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, and 2 2.5 stars. So there's that. The subgenres of this were 14 contemporary, 4 historical, 10 dark, 2 erotic, 3 fantasy, 1 paranormal, 10 fan fictions, 5 sci-fi, and 1 dystopian. So quite the gamut. The main tropes that I read this month were forced proximity, age gap, BDSM, virgin, and enemies to lovers. It's funny because 4 of those 5 are always there, right? Forced proximity is a staple for romance. I always say that, but it switches between if it's enemies to lovers or friends to lovers for me, and I that always makes me chuckle. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about my favorites. So one of the things that happened this month is I really went heavy with audiobooks at the beginning of the month because I can't talk. There was a huge Audible sale, but there also was just a lot of books I was finding that were on Audible Plus. There's still a lot that I want to get to. But I was binging a lot of these while I was working on Christmas presents, right? I was doing a lot of sewing for the shop and for Christmas presents and stuff. And so I was just binging hard on some books at the beginning of the month. And one of these series that I discovered, not on my own, many people have recommended it. My best friend really likes the series. So that is the Cenan Mate series, or the Cenan series, which is a alien and human pairing. And there's these women that get stolen from Earth by these bad aliens who discover that women can breed with them. And a lot of different races of alien, they're like women, they don't have enough women anymore. And so they have these very short marriages where they try to get pregnant. If they don't, then the woman moves on to the next man, right? And so I read the first 4 or 5 books in this series, like within 3 days. So this one, Using Feiho, is book 4 or 5 in the series. I don't even know. And this one was a 5-star read for me. This was Feiho and Vanessa. And like, I don't want to spoil too much for the series because this one is further on. But Vanessa, we'll just say, is trying very hard to get back to Earth. She's trying a bit harder than some of the other women. A lot of the women have now been like paired up with an alien and they're happy with their men. And they're not really allowed to go back home anyway, because Earth is at a lower like exploration level, we'll call it, and they haven't discovered other life on their own yet. And so that means that planets that are at a higher level of like, they know the other planets, they're not allowed to interfere with Earth and like give them information ahead of when they should know it. So that means these women who have been on this other planet now, even though they didn't want to, even though they were kidnapped, they're not allowed to just go home. Like, they're not allowed to do that. But also, now that word is getting out that human women can mate with them and give them babies and be their fated mates, some of them too, they are going to want to take more women. So we're in a very interesting place here. So I listened to all the audiobooks that were available now, and I can't wait for more because I just love them so much. But Using Feiho ends up being like a marriage of convenience, but Vanessa really is trying to use Feiho to help her get back to Earth. And Feiho, he has been someone who he's been wanting someone to choose him as a mate for so long. And so he's going to be absolutely heartbroken when he discovers that she chose him just to use him for something. So it's very sad to see. But I did give this 5 stars. Feiho just broke my heart, and there was some really like good stuff in this one. And again, the audiobooks for the series are amazing. So start with Choosing Theo. Loved that one as well. I loved all of these. This was just my favorite out of the ones I read, so that's why I put it here, but they're all great. Okay, then we have God of Fury by Rena Kent, which I have the physical book, the ebook, and the audiobook, which is what I've done for the last 2 books in this series. This is finally the one that pushed me to 6 stars. Now, when I like go back and look at them, I feel like God of Malice would have been a 6-star read for me as well. I was just so baffled by that book that I gave it 5 stars. But I feel like it would be a 6-star if I visited again. But this one is Rena Kent's first romance, and you would never know it. The dynamics in this book, the angst in this story, the like sexual awakening in this story, the way that Nikolai pushes Brandon. Yeah, sorry, my brain just in this like powerful way was fascinating. Like, this story was fascinating. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my notes so I don't forget something. But anyway, this one is book 5 in the Legacy of the God series. We've been waiting for this one. A lot of these books kind of all take place at the same time. However, I know people are going to ask. I feel like you at least need to have read the book before this one, at least God of Ruin, before you read this, okay? So all of the gushing that I'm doing for this book is because I read all of these books before it, okay? So it's just tough for me because I'm a person that, number one, you can read books in whatever order you want. You absolutely can. But then when you read just one book in a series and then you're like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, that's because I read 4 books before this that were leading up to this that made this book the pinnacle of the series for me. So yeah, you can just read this one and I bet you'll still like it if you like this kind of stuff. Like, I bet you will. But there's something about how we've seen bits and pieces of this romance through it, because this one, you know, we go all the way back to the beginning again with this one, and we see what these two have been going through now from their points of view and what's been happening as it fits in with all the other love stories. And now God of Ruin is about the twin brother of Brandon and the sister of Nikolai. So that relationship happens before this one, but it's also happening at the same time as this one. So they all build on each other. So yes, I understand when an author strongly says this is a standalone, you can read it how you want. I'm just like, yeah, that's because you're trying to sell it to the people who haven't read the others. That doesn't mean it's the best place to start. If you start with these audiobooks, they're fantastic. They eventually become duet narration. They start out as dual, they become duet, and they're fantastic. This book was narrated by, I think it's Teddy and Shane East, and oh my God, it is so good. This was so emotional. The journey that Brandon and Nikolai go on together, the way that they're just made for each other, but also it's because Nikolai pushed. It's because he's a bit of a stalker at the beginning. It's because he's trying to fuck with Brandon's head that as he's like messing with him, he falls for him too and is like, actually, I want you to be mine and I'm going to make it happen. And Brandon has trauma that he's been suppressing. He has self-harm that he's been doing to deal with his pain and deal with that stuff. And he's been keeping this a secret from everyone, even his twin. And there's so much like growth that I saw for Landon in this one as well, which Landon's romance was the one before this one. And already there was a big arc that happened in there, right? But there was still some pieces that didn't fully fit. And this is the missing pieces to that, because Brandon and Lan, they had some things they need to work out because there's some secrets that Brandon's been keeping. And we think that Landon's the one who's so fucked up. Brandon has a lot that he's hiding as well. So, this was just so good, but you're not going to get the full effect of it if you haven't read the other books. And I loved pretty much all the books in the series. There's only one of them that was less than like 4.5 stars. Like they were 5 stars, 5 stars, 4, and then 5, 6. Like I've loved all of these. Highly recommend them. They're a dark bully romance. Most of them are. There are psychopaths and there's like dubcon and some consensual, non-consent. Like it has all the dark, twisty triggers. This isn't a happy series. It's painful. And the triggers for this one are self-harm, rape of a man by a woman. Won't tell you who or how, but it's very important. There's also like violence, depression. There is a suicide attempt in here. Like there is heavy shit. But by the end, I was just so drained in that way that like satisfaction leaves you so drained, because this was such a full, complete journey. And I mean, I know God of War is going to be epic as well, like when we finally get that last couple we're waiting on. But this one for me is like, currently this is like the best in the series for me, and honestly the best I've read from Rena Kent. I know I haven't been a huge fan before, but like this is, I have read books by her that I loved before, but this is to me her best work to date, and I can tell how much she literally like sweat and bled for these characters because I feel it. So there we go. That one also made it onto my favorites list right at the end of the year, so you will see that in my top list, absolutely. Okay, then I won't talk about this book too long because in my weekly wrap up I talked about this one for like 15 minutes, so I won't do it here. You'll have to watch that weekly wrap up. But I finally read Measure of a Man by In a Daze 22. I listened to it on Spotify as well as then I finished it off on my Kindle. This is a 2,200 pages / it is 588,000 words. This is an epic fanfic. But it's also a bit of a quieter story than some of the others. It isn't as jarring or painful as a Manacled or as The Auction or stuff like that. But this one is a single dad, Draco, is a healer, Hermione. There is an adorable Scorpius Malfoy who is actually mute in this. And Hermione is working with Narcissa Malfoy, who has dementia. And we aren't looking to cure her, but we're looking to extend her life as long as we can, extend her lucidity as long as possible. So this is a long, slow journey, but it is so powerful. And the note at the end of this book from the author, I think, really sums it up well, that this is meant to like fit into the 17 years later arc, like at the end, but it, you know, changes the story quite a bit. But it was very interesting how, yeah, that last chapter when they are now standing in front of the Hogwarts Express and it's Hermione with her family, and we see like Harry and Ginny with their kids, and there's such a beautiful relationship in this one between Scorpius and James. Little James is so cute, and yeah, there's so much to talk about this one, and it's so hard to fit it into it. And I understand that some people don't give a shit about the fan fictions. They skip right by when I'm talking about those. But there's a reason why these consistently make my like favorites lists, because there's just something that when a fanfic author can take a world that has maybe been fleshed out really well or maybe not, but finds parts of it that they like best and then uses that and uses the characters to tell something completely different but no less powerful. And to me, that's what this one did. This was, I completely understand. And the only reason I didn't make it a 6-star is because it's huge, and it does take a long time to get to some stuff, but it was beautiful, and it's worth it if you want to, you know, start plugging away at the chapters. The chapters on audio, like each one is like an hour long, so you definitely could, you know, like make this a series, like listen to one a day. It took me 2 weeks to read, but it was worth it. All right, then there was The Man I Know by Daisy Jane. This one was a nice little surprise to me. I had such a good time with it. This is actually a married couple who's discovering some kinky play together. This isn't a marriage in trouble. This isn't a, like, you know, second chance. Like, they are together and they love each other, but they start to explore some desires that the hero has that he's really been hiding. He's never even tried them out with a girlfriend. He's brought it up before, and he was kind of shamed for his desires previously, which was very sad to see that happen to him. But then his wife kind of catches him fantasizing about it, and she, you know, he's very ashamed. He's like, oh my God, my wife is going to be horrified by this. She's going to want to leave me. She's going to think I'm despicable. And she's like, baby, like, why didn't you tell me? Let's look into it together. And so I just thought this was such a beautiful, like, a relationship that's evolving. They weren't in danger of breaking up. They probably never would have. We weren't going to be at that point. But their relationship, yeah, is evolving and changing as he's brave enough to share what he wants. So I found that to be very touching, and I just loved seeing him be open about it. Now, where there is like a little bit, it's not conflict, but where there is kind of the, like, the bump in the road in this is that neither of them has done kink at all. He's never done it with another partner. So they obviously do some research. They know about safe words. They know about the things they need to do to practice, but they don't ask for help with this. They don't go to a dungeon. They don't ask for advice from other people who like to do CNC. So they get themselves into some sticky situations that could cause them a lot of problems. So there is a little bit of a cameo from characters from one of the other series who are also kinksters that give them some advice, and I thought that was really good. But yeah, this was just, I thought it was beautiful. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and they explore like CNC, rape fantasy, breath play, impact play. They do a lot of that. There's some sharabi in here. It was all really fun. So yeah, read this if you just need a good spicy married couple that you're not worried about their relationship through it. You're just, how are they going to work their way through their desires in a safe, sane way, right? So yeah, really, really good stuff. And then the last one I want to put in my favorites is Sanctuary by Claire Kent. So this is the most recent book in her Kindled series. I have been a huge fan of the series for 2+ years now, I think, and I've read arcs for all of the books past the first 2 in the series. I just love the way that Claire Kent tells a story, and this one is a bit of a companion to Citadel, the book before it. So most of these you can just jump in wherever you want. If you see the tropes that you like, you can just read it. They all connect back together, but not necessarily in a huge way. This one had some great cameos at the end. I forgot how like great they were. There was some really fun cameos in this one. But this one is 8 years into the Apocalypse 2, which we've moved along a little bit. There was a little pop-in of Travis and Lane, and we find out how many kids they're on already, which I won't spoil, but was very cute. But this one is, we have Brianna, and she's kind of a free ranger right now because her sister, which her book is Citadel, she's now paired up, she has herself a man, and so Brianna isn't worried about protecting her sister anymore because her sister's good. And previously Brianna had protected her sister by, like, they were both two kind of fragile, like smaller type women, and Brianna is very beautiful, and so she would trade her body for safety and food for them. And she took that on as the older sister and the protector, and for years she did that. Whenever they had to be in a new situation, she would find the strongest alpha male and offer herself to be his woman. And so she did this, kind of like consensually selling herself for years now. And so she's determined to never have to do that again. She doesn't trust men the thought of one touching her makes her feel gross just because of what she's made it through. And then there's Aiden, who he is also a trader. Not a traitor, but he's a trader. He will do jobs for different settlements, and he sees Brianna as competition. He also has some trauma to his backstory, which, I mean, who doesn't at this point in the, new order of things? Everybody has some. And he sees her as competition, and so he's trying to kind of edge her out. And she's getting fed up with this because she's like, there is room for us both to do jobs. Like, just stop it. And they end up in this, like, challenge against each other when one of the I hate saying rulers, but like one of the heads of one of these settlements like pits them against each other. And when they go to compete in this, who can get back first, they end up stuck in a church for like 3 or 4 days during a snowstorm. And Brianna is actually injured. And so he really drops all of the tough guy act and is just there to help her because he's like, we're both humans and I'm not going to pick a job over your life. Like, we'll figure it out. And so while they spend this time locked together, they slowly open up about why each of them is the way they are. And they see if maybe they want to make a go of it together, which is beautiful. So I gave this one 5 stars. Of course, it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. We are dealing with death of loved ones. There's PTSD. There is violence and death, including death of children in the past. So there we go. That's the wrap up for December. Those are my favorite books of the month here. Again, stay tuned soon. I'll have my yearly wrap up, my yearly favorites, all the stats for everything. Yeah, this was really fun. Let me know what your favorite books of the month were. What are you looking forward to in the new year? And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you to my supporters who keep me going, and we'll see you next time. Bye.